Welcome to Trinity Cathedral, and this is our organ video for the first week of May in 2021. May the 6th, a beautiful spring day here. And for those of you who've been watching in recent weeks, we started with the Great Manual, which is the backbone manual of most any pipe organ. Last week we went up one keyboard to the Swell, which is sort of the partner for the Great. They're the two, as we said, sort of the two workhorse divisions of most any pipe organ. And today we're going to go up to the top keyboard, which in this case is called the solo division. And this is, we mentioned, this is sort of like a trip to the candy store because it has so many special effects that may not be found on a lot of pipe organs. Having a solo manual puts a pipe organ in sort of a different category in terms of the extra special resources that it has tonally. A lot of organs, if they have two keyboards, they'll have a Great Manual and a Swell manual. And like we said, those are the two key things. Very often, that's what you find on a pipe organ. If there's a third manual, it very often will be a choir or positive division down here on the bottom. But having a fourth manual on the top is sort of a special and really wonderful thing that organists will appreciate, and any of you that listen to pipe organ sound will find that there are a lot of very beautiful and, as I say, not always standard sounds on pipe organs. These are the frosting on the cake, as it were. So the stops of the solo division live here, and you can see the solo nameplate here. There are these two rows of stop knobs. And we have flute tone, we have string tone in abundance, and we have reed tone also in abundance. So as you might expect, those are the categories of sound that are the most soloistic and the most orchestral in some ways. Speaking of orchestral, our flute in the solo division is called orchestral flute. And this is pipes made of wood, very big scale. These are not tiny pipes. And the sound correspondingly has real body and color to it. So here's the orchestral flute. Beautiful when accompanied by quiet stops. So it's a really big, akin to a flute solo in an orchestral situation, you know, where it sort of soars out on the top of the texture and always a beautiful sound, as you know, and that's sort of the function of that orchestral flute. Strings. String tone is a really special category of organ tone. It has keenness. It also can have breadth, and it can have warmth. So it's a useful type of tone. And we've got two quite contrasting sets of strings here on the solo. The bigger of the two is called gamba, and that's comes from the name of a viol da gamba, a forerunner of the cello, so a stringed instrument. A lot of body. I'll contrast that with the principal in the swell. moderately strong principal tone, pretty strong string tone. And we mentioned last week that strings often come in pairs, so you'll have a complete set of unison-tuned strings, and then you have another very similar set of pipes that's deliberately tuned a little sharp or a little flat, usually sharp, and that's what it is in the case of this. And that, again, warms up the sound because those two pipes that are deliberately slightly out of tune beat against each other. They set up a series of beats, and as I mentioned, it's a little bit like 16 first violins all playing the same note, but they're just microscopically different parts of that same note, and it makes the sound more warm than it would otherwise be. So here's our unison string, and then I'm going to add the celeste rank. That's the out of tune rank. So you can play with both of those. If I subtract the celeste, add the celeste, it's a much warmer tone, arguably a little more beautiful. So that's our big set of strings. Then we have a separate, smaller scale set of strings. They're about as loud, but they're, if you could see the pipes, the pipes you just heard, the gamba, are pretty good-sized diameter pipes for their length and type. Whereas there's a stop called dulcet, and both of the ranks play on one knob. They're always, the two sets are always engaged. They can't be separated. And these are some of the skinniest pipes for their length of any pipes on any pipe organ. This was a special Aeolian-Skinner sound that he really enjoyed and perfected. And just, the pipes are, if you could see them, they're amazingly thin. They're like, the long pipes might be a ½ inch in diameter. So their scale in terms of their width is amazingly thin. And they produce an interesting sound. They have that sizzle that you sometimes get from real stringed instruments. Again, the sort of buzzing, vibrating feel that you get from a rosiny bow on a cello string. So if I start with the dulcet and then I add the bigger gambas, I'm going to add the gambas. Subtract the gambas. So it's a really special and unusual sound, that dulcet. Not found in many organs nowadays. The solo, as you might have gathered if you've been listening carefully, is enclosed behind swell shades, so all these stops are expressive in terms of being able to get louder and softer by opening and closing the swell shades. Then we have a plethora of reed tone here, soft orchestral type reeds and some big brassy type reeds. The orchestral solo type reeds are, the first one is called Flügelhorn, a good German name, and that again was a Skinner perfection. And both the dulcet that you just heard and the Flügelhorn are rescue pipes, as it were, from the basement of the former Church of the Transfiguration before that building was torn down to make way for the present Holiday Inn at the Cleveland Clinic on Euclid and, 86th Street or something around in there. So this is the Flügelhorn. Really a beautiful sound, sort of midway between a clarinet and an English horn. And then we have a real clarinet that's beautiful pipes. And again, these are Skinner pipes also. Just reading in the paper today, those of you that are baseball fans like Scott and I are, today is Willie Mays' 90th birthday. So So there's Take Me Out to the Ball Game, played on the Skinner clarinet in the solo division. Another very special Skinner effect is the French horn. And that's a sound that did not exist on pipe organs before Ernest Skinner developed it in the early years of the 20th century. And so these actually are new pipes made for this organ in vintage Skinner style, and they're really quite good. So they really have that sense of color and the right overtones and everything to be closely imitative of the sound of the horn. Especially down here in this range. It's always the best part of a French horn. So, Flügelhorn, clarinet, French horn. We mentioned last week the chimes, and the chimes play on two keyboards. They play on the grate, and they also play up here on the solo. And they have another percussive stop that is sort of their pair. And on the organ, it's called a harp, but it's really a percussion stop. sort of a music box kind of an effect that again can be really beautiful when combined with some other soft sounds. Delicate but beautiful. And then I'm saving our sort of crowning glory for the end, and this is our tuba. These are, again, new pipes made for this organ, and this is a tuba of considerable scale and presence, character, and volume. And it's the big crowning tonal element, really, in this whole instrument. So. And those are just single pipes playing, so you can get an idea of the tonal effect. But if, say, when used to play a hymn tune, that would be imitative of the brass section in an orchestra. Say if you had the trumpets and the trombones all playing the melody forte with their bells up in the air, that's the sort of effect this makes. And that's an 8-foot stop, so it plays at usual keyboard pitch, but it also exists as a 16-foot stop. There's an extra octave of pipes that enables it to play an octave lower than keyboard pitch. And those are pretty impressive pipes. So here's playing down to 8-foot C. So those pipes are literally right about 8 feet long, and then the octave below that goes, each pipe is made totally of wood, and they get longer and longer down to fully 16 feet in length. Those are, even in this good-sized building, those pipes move a lot of air. They're really doing something pretty remarkable. So you can combine those for big brass fanfares. So they're wonderfully declamatory and dramatic and effective stops, you know. So we wish Willie Mays a happy 90th birthday as we tour the solo organ here. So that's the tuba playing at 16 and 8-foot pitch. So I think that gives you a nice idea of our visit to the candy store, all these beautiful special tonal elements that live up on the top keyboard. So the one keyboard that we've not yet visited is the bottom, and that's the home of the choir division that lives over here on the other side of the chancel. So that'll be our place to visit next week. So I hope you have a wonderful week in the meantime, and we'll see you when we visit the choir division next week. Thanks so much.